Hello and welcome to State of the Economy. Today we have with us Mr. Dilip Chenoy, CEO of the National Skill Development Corporation, to discuss with us in some detail the new national skills mission which was launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi last month. Now, a lot of new elements have been added to the skill development mission which had kicked off when this government came to power last year. Well, it was even from before that, the skill development mission was an ongoing project, but a lot of new elements have got added. And to discuss that, we have with us Mr. Dilip Chenoy. Welcome to our show, Mr. Chenoy. So now tell us, last month Prime Minister Modi added a lot of new elements to the overall skills mission. And you as CEO of the National Skills Development Corporation, it's a public-private mission project, and you work closely with the government. Now, what are these new elements that have got added to the whole scheme now?
I think to put it in the context, July 15th, like June 21st was nominated as the World Yoga Day, July 15th is the World Youth Skills Day.
Okay.
And it was the first World Youth Skills Day. On that, Prime Minister unveiled 4 different things. The first was that, like the Make in India or the Ganga, the Clean Ganga or the Swachh Bharat program, the Skill India is now officially a mission.
Okay.
This was actually announced by the finance minister in his first budget. Mr. Jaitley had said the government intends to set up a Skill India mission.
So you're saying it has been raised to the level of a mission?
Yeah, it's been raised to level of mission, and moreover, it is perhaps as Minister
like
Rudy,
you have the Digital India mission.
as Minister Rudy says that this is perhaps the only mission where the Prime Minister personally chairs it.
Okay.
So he's the chairman of the mission as well. And there's a mission thing which is ordered all the ministers.
Okay.
Under that, there's another tier where the Minister Rudy, as Minister of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, chairs a committee of secretaries. And then the secretary, Mr. Arora, chairs the executive committee, of which NSDC is a part of.
Okay.
Now, there's a 3-tier structure being put into place with 7 independent verticals looking at different aspects.
Okay.
One of the changes in this whole scheme is the second thing that he unveiled there was the skills and entrepreneurship policy of the government.
Okay.
The last policy for India was in 2009. The policy said that it will be reviewed after 5 years. We have the policy reviewed, and now we have a new policy of skill development and entrepreneurship, which, as the name itself suggests, has a huge content of entrepreneurship.
So earlier it was about workers, skilling workers. Now it is also about skilling entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Self-employed entrepreneurs.
Okay. Because if you look at the numbers that are coming out, depending on how you look at it, the target in the previous skills mission was 500 million. Okay. This year it's about 400 plus million.
Okay.
So the numbers have actually moved. And also because there is a accumulation of things happening under the ministry, the independent targets for different ministries that were a part of the earlier policy are no longer actually.
So now the target is skilling 400 million people by 2022.
2022, yeah.
Okay, and skilling entrepreneur is part of this.
Is part of that.
Okay.
And there's a framework being set up for the...
Because it stands to reason, because NSS data shows that a good part of those who are employed in India are actually self-employed. So in some ways they are already self-employed entrepreneurs, right?
Yes. So if you look at it,
in fact, it's about 50%. 50% of all incremental employment is not in organized manufacturing, but they are self-employed.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, if you look at it, one of the other things that have part of this is that the policy states that there will be a harmonization of the different ministries' skill development plans. That committee of secretaries had met, and the cabinet has approved the harmonization laws, harmonization criteria for which will be coming to execution from April 1, 2016, and there's a transition time for all the existing programs to move to that. And in that, a very key element is that entrepreneurship and self-employment will also be counted as placement, because most of the government schemes actually talked about if you wanted to skill under, let's say, the Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Kushal Yojana scheme or the National Urban Livelihood Mission, etc., the mandatory placement of 70% was necessary for you to get the full payment. That 70% was constituted as getting into a job which was with an organized sector, with EPF and all of that. And that was actually not possible because, as you said, a majority of the people, estimates vary from 90% upwards, are in the informal sector, are not in the formal sector. And out of them, 50% to 60% are in the self-employment sector. So in the harmonization and common norms, as it is called, self-employment and entrepreneurship is actually included. And the evidence for promoting, for proving entrepreneurship is that person should have taken a loan from a bank or from a NBFC to set up an entrepreneurial model, or should have an increase. So the whole thing of entrepreneurship has been included in the new policy document as we...
Just explain to me, it's interesting that the Prime Minister himself is chairing this mission, and under him, I presume all the ministries, the bureaucracies will coordinate, right? To also, to in some ways to bring together aspects of different ministries which require skill development, right? Now, tell me, isn't the government today the biggest, in some ways, biggest employer, directly and indirectly? Like you have a government company like National Building Construction Corporation, you have, state government-driven companies who provide indirect employment in the sense they give out contracts for which construction workers are hired by contractors. Now, is there some mechanism by which government can track these indirect employment avenues which open up because of its contracts and then move to actually to skill them and to get them better welfare, etc.?
Right. So if you look at it in the new skill policy and the new skill mission document, the role of the National Skill Development Agency is actually being very, very specified to create a labor market information system, which tracks both demand and supply side. In the sense, what are the jobs available? What is the training being done? And
you have to track that.
That's the IT
kind of demand.
Yeah, that's the IT system being developed. In theory, a lot of people could say, why can't you do it overnight? But in practice, giving the nature of employment and giving the aspects here is slightly different. But very interestingly, earlier, when we mandated the National Skills Qualification Framework, there's a very interesting clause in that framework which says that from 5 years after the NSQF comes into operation, all jobs have to be advertised according to a skills qualification level. So that means a mason, a plumber, electrician will be having a kind of a qualification pack which has been delivered by a sector skill council in the skills qualification framework, and then all will have to advertise the jobs according to that. What is also being contemplated is, like, there is a clause in the PWD contracting system and the government contracting system that a certain percentage need to be certified. Now it was a chicken and egg situation that there are no certified people, so how can you do that? But going forward, as this NSQF comes into operation and we have more trained people coming in, you will see this happening. And what the way it could be driven is anybody who gets a government contract has to have certified people. Of course, there's a flip side.
What is the full NSQF full form?
The National Skills Qualification Framework.
As a National Skills Qualification Framework.
Yeah. So this was actually, and when the minister actually addresses, he says there are 3 terms that everybody needs to know. The first is the National Skills Qualification Framework. The framework that we knew was class 9, 10, 11, 12, graduate, postgraduate, and a degree. But there's an unskilled workers, there is a skilled worker, then there's a supervisor, senior supervisor, general manager, senior general manager, and a CEO. So that has actually been done there. And in the 38 sector skill councils that we have a mapping of the job roles and the qualification packs in that sector.
Okay.
Now, the challenge is that traditionally, a lot of people believe that if you take construction, a lot of people work in the unorganized sector.
Sure.
But whether it is the organized or unorganized sector, what the mason does is the same thing.
Yeah.
Again, the second confusion that is being caused is that in the MSME sector, a person performs multiple job roles.
Yeah.
Now, it is not that he performs half of a job role, he performs the full job role.
Okay.
So he'll have multiple certifications to enable him to actually progress there.
Okay.
And this is something with which the employers and the people from industry or leading the sector skill councils need to work with the agencies that are there to convince them that this is correct. So that is a challenge that we're facing.
Tell me, Dilip, when you say, when the NSS data says that less than 3% of our workforce, which is roughly 450 million people, is skilled, what does it mean?
Okay, there are two views on this.
I mean, are you saying that barring those 2-3%,
No.
others are useless?
No, pure theory economists contest this view. The view is that NSSO data asks the question, have you got a formal training?
Okay.
That means, have you got an NCVT certification?
Okay.
Now, when you're a graduate, right, you have a graduation degree, right? But there are many people outside the system who have a knowledge more than what a graduate has,
Yeah.
right? But there's no way for them to actually get
So
that graduate degree.
they get categorized as unskilled.
They get categorized as unskilled, or they don't have a certification, etc. So a farmer who does not have a formal certification gets unskilled. Now the problem is that in the construction industry, for example, the person may be skilled as a mason, but the contractor or the developer has got no means to know because he doesn't have a certificate.
Oh, you know,
if you get a plumber from the hardware store for your home, you have no means to verify. So
it's like family of plumbers, they may be learning it from family to family kind of training system, right?
And the certification makes a great difference in your income.
Okay.
Because it proves to the employer that you have some skill and you need not be hired at basic wage.
Yeah.
And once you see, the idea is, how do you get people to enroll for skill development programs?
Okay. Yeah.
Today, any job, you have a graduate, you get into the interview door.
Yeah.
But if you are skilled, how do you get into the interview door?
So you have to create a new threshold for the unskilled. That's what you're saying, right?
That's right.
Yeah. We will discuss it, but after a small break. Please don't go and keep watching RSTV. Welcome back to State of the Economy. We are talking to Mr. Dilip Chenoy, CEO of National Skills Development Corporation. Dilip, you were saying something interesting. You were saying that just as we have various hierarchy of qualifications for those who are skilled or so-called educated, like 12th class, graduate, postgraduate, PhD. So your corporation is working with the government, public sector organizations to also to create a similar hierarchy of certifications for unskilled workers. Like, as you said, a mason who has learned masonry through his family tradition would be very good, but on paper he's unskilled. So. Right. So essentially what you'll do is you'll test him and you'll actually give him a certificate, right?
Yes. So that
and that will enhance his market value also.
That's the Prime Minister launched on the 15th of July. He launched the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, which is being implementation is coordinated by the NSDC, under which there are two plans. One is to do 1.4 million or 14 lakh new certifications in the 28 sectors where there are standards.
Okay.
The second is to look at 1 million or 10 lakh recognition of prior learning in sectors such as construction, handloom, plumbing, automotive. Today, your roadside automotive person does not have anything. He just, he's got no degree, no certificate or nothing. So if he comes like a certified mechanic, right?
Yeah.
And the idea here is that we want to create a market for skilled people, and if we create a market for skilled people, so every plumber, if he's registered, today you are seeing in different parts of the country, plumbers who are registered being offered on an app.
Yeah,
right?
Okay, yeah.
Or you have got through Just Dial. So how do we actually create a market for people and create an incentive that people go and get certified and also then keep up with the latest trends, etc. So this idea of recognition of prior learning is exactly that. Across different industry sectors, you take any industry sector, you take a person working on the shop floor on a lathe machine for 5 to 6 years. He may have passed out ITI for the last 5 years, 5 years ago, but his qualification will be ITI.
Okay.
But he can actually do, and it is happening in companies as we speak, that along with the practical experience, they're taking a theory class in the weekend and then giving him a diploma, advanced diploma, or even a BTech as we go. And institutions like there's YIT in Pune, there are other institutions who are doing earn while you learn scheme.
So how is NS National Skills Development Corporation helping this in this process?
So what we have done is we have formed 38 sector skill councils in different sector skill councils. As a first step in the organized sector, 80% of the entry-level jobs have been mapped and a qualification pack. And each of the sector skill councils, so if it is the construction sector skill council, is chaired by Ajit Gulabchand of Hindustan Construction. So they are saying, how do you progress from a mason to a contractor, to an owner? If you look at the Capital Goods Sector Skill Council, it's chaired by Mr. K. Venkatramanan of...
That's where entrepreneurship will come in, right?
Yeah. So
if a mason becoming a contractor...
Yeah, so we have training providers in Pune and other places whose people have started from a mason. We have a first woman entrepreneur also there.
Do you also provide financing from Mudra Bank, etc.?
No. So what we are doing is that for the entrepreneurship piece, with our collaboration with Seva or Madura Microfinance or Sri Sahyog Microfinance, they are saying we are creating entrepreneurs. So one of the things we said, the proof that you are creating entrepreneurs should come out by them taking a loan from you and setting up a business. So then the training cost gets included in the loan cost, and Seva is also giving carpenters a carpentry kit. Mandeshi Foundation, which is working with HSBC in Satara area, is also doing that. Slowly, this thing is all spreading, and a huge number of entrepreneurs are...
And do you see a critical role played by Mudra Bank in funding these entrepreneurs?
I think
isn't Mudra Bank meant to do that?
Let me explain to you. I think that is there. In a World Bank study, I think it came out that India as a country, for its size of GDP, has less number of entrepreneurs even than some African countries. And there were 3 constraints identified for it. The first was the too complicated regulatory process to set up a business, which the Make in India is actually addressing. The second one was that there was no access to finance. So Mudra, the NBFCs, the 10,000 crore rupee fund that you have talked about, the indirect funding through organizations such as NSDC is an enablement. The self-help groups under the Ministry of Rural Development are all elements to actually address the funding model.
Part,
And third is that we don't tend to have an entrepreneurship culture, and I think that is changing. And we have like it happened initially in the initial .com boom before it went bust, but now with the e-commerce startups and even Jaipur being nominated as a startup hub, you're seeing the younger generation looking at entrepreneurship going in and risk-taking ability there, and the societal attitude to failure also has changed. So it is a whole system that is actually being developed here which will promote entrepreneurship.
Look here, I want to touch upon another very interesting aspect of skill development. See, the bulk of the self-employed in our country would logically come from the non-upper caste segments. I mean, I'm just making instinctively, I sense this because even when the Mudra Bank was announced, they did say that this is supposed to fund self-employed entrepreneurs who would largely be from from the Dalit and backward segments, and this was said in the budget announcement. Now, how do you think that these segments, the socially hitherto socially oppressed sections, you might say, but now not anymore. Now they are coming up, setting up their own small businesses, which is borne out in several surveys that these people are doing their own small, rendering their services at the village level, at the town level. Now, how can finance reach these people? That's what I'm asking.
It's a very interesting thing.
So I'm not sort of trying to bring in a caste angle here.
No, I'm fully
but
aware.
caste and class have an overlap here.
I fully agree with you. But, some of the not known facts to a lot of people is, and there are two aspects to this question, so let me deal with it there. If we can get to the 400 million, right, then given the number of households, number of households in the country, where you have to do at least 1.2 people per household. So if you look at that, inclusion automatically happens. But that's not the question that you're asking. But the second thing is, if you look at the different segments, so there's a minorities finance group, there's a minorities skilling group, a minorities entrepreneurship group. It's known as Manas, right?
Manas, yeah, sure.
The second is for the scheduled tribe and scheduled caste, there are two separate finance corporations. For the women, there's a Rajkiya Mahila Kosh, which is actually operated under the Ministry of. So there are for different types of people, there are different financing mechanisms which are to reach out to them.
Are they working?
What has happened over the last 4 to 5 years, because of the initiative taken by the leadership in industry and partly because of the pull effect from the NSDC, skill has come to center stage and now has come to a further center stage of the leadership of the Prime Minister and the Minister.
Sure.
And entrepreneurship also is actually coming up because the people are now seeing that if I improve my skills, I actually, at the end of the day, get more money for my 8 hours. And the equation with children now, with the youth today, is if I work for 8 hours, how much will I earn? So if I work for 8 hours and as a front office staff and I got 9,000 rupees is one thing. But if I work 8 hours in the construction and I get 20,000 rupees, people now are preferring to go to the construction sector. So we are having, if you see a lot of the people working in the construction sector, you talk to them and say, I'm a graduate, but I'm a mason. I did not go there. There are cases where drivers have given up their sales jobs to become drivers because the driver pays more. So that people are understanding the value of skills and the value of entrepreneurship. If, for example, rather than being a courier person today, people are enrolling for a training program which enables them to buy their own vehicle after 3 years and then become their own delivery person. So you're seeing this happening. It's very, very small now, but it's got the opportunity to exponentially grow.
Plus, tell me, how can your organization, say with the help of Mudra Bank, actually reach both skills and entrepreneurial skills and financing to the very backward districts of this country where the really poor and the and people from the the Dalit backward caste reside.
Let me explain to you. If you look at the profile of the type of people who've come out of the ecosystem of NSDC, we've done about 5.4 million people over the last 5 years.
You've skilled about 5.4 million.
Okay. Out of that, 51% are SC, ST, OBC, 27% are women, without any formal reservation system in it.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So you naturally, you're covering people of a certain...
and you are into 471 districts of the country, including in a place like Parlaka Mundi, which is the heart of
this is the composition, right? Out of 5 million, nearly 70% are Dalits, backwards and women.
51%.
Okay, 50.
And there's some overlap in the, I've not...
women and,
women and the SC, ST, OBC numbers, right? So, but what I'm saying is like a place, Lakshan hit Parlaka Mundi.
So do you think this trend will hold?
It has to, because if that is the nature of the demographics of the country, and if you're wanting to do 400 million by that point of time...
So natural demographics will dictate that this will be the composition?
Yes.
So in a way, it's a good thing. So,
and we have to focus on the right things. While there are individual organizations who are given the responsibility, like I mentioned, the finance corporations and the other things that have been set up, there are, it's very difficult sometimes. If a person doesn't have a BPL certificate, if a person doesn't have an SC, ST certificate, then where does he go? So then he can get included in programs such as this. The government has its schemes. There are, in a different ministries for doing that, and they're all being coordinated in the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. So this is the new direction which we are looking at.
Tell me, Dilip, how do you foresee this lot that you just spoke about, 50%, that you have done, National Skills Development Corporation has done, skilled, and maybe placed about 22.3 million so far?
If you look
that's
at...
what I see on your website.
That's right.
Now, how do you see this lot, the bottom 400 million people, going forward in the next 10 years? Do you foresee them being self-employed entrepreneurs more, or do you foresee them going into jobs?
I think if you look at the demographics and look at job creation and what is happening in the world, there is something very interesting happening across the world which will have a major impact here with the Internet of Things, with the digitization, with the virtualization. The nature of jobs are going to change. You know, just something which everybody can understand. 3 years ago, we had a telegraph operator. Today, we don't have any telegraph operator other than the person who does something on the ship. Thing, whatever.
So you're saying it will be more entrepreneurial?
The jobs will change, more entrepreneurs will come up. You know, it's amazing. If you go back into history 15 years ago, we had very few mobile repair. Now you have millions of
so
mobile.
So you're saying the labor market structure is changing?
Labor market structure is changing. It's changing. The entrepreneurial opportunities in India are increasing. You just look at the...
So it's likely that the bottom 400 million people will go more into entrepreneurial activities rather than regular jobs.
Regular job
possibilities there.
Yeah,
right?
but as the Prime Minister said, while the world ages for healthcare workers, general duty assistants, for technicians, the world will open up to India. So it's important, like NSDC, what we are doing is we are tying up with the different regulatory agencies and sector skill councils across the world to get an equivalence of standards.
So that's the other big opportunity for India. Thank you very much, Dilip Chenoy, for talking to us. That's all we have in this edition of State of the Economy. We'll be back with you next week. Thanks for watching.